Man, the Sonic X Shadow Generations news just does not stop. Recently, we have gotten leaked gameplay from the Summer Game Fest demo event, where journalists and content creators were invited to play Sonic X Shadow Generations. And man, this gameplay looks outstanding. So the demo includes Green Hill Act 1 and 2 from Base Generations, Space Colony Arc Act 1 from Shadow Generations, and the Biolizard boss fight from Shadow Generations as well. So in this video, I wanted to go through the footage we have and just give my thoughts on it. This isn't going to be a fully researched and scripted video, I'm just kind of giving my raw thoughts on what I see. So the footage I'm using in this video comes from VGC on YouTube and GamesCage via Twitter. The VGC footage is directly captured from the game, but it's heavily spliced up and the person playing it has no clue what the f they're doing. So most of the footage I show is probably going to be from GamesCage. Anyways, let's look at the Sonic Generations footage we have. There are some key differences here regarding gameplay, but the remaster graphically still seems pretty identical to the original. Let's just start with classic Sonic. He has a drop dash now. Honestly, at this point, I would have been shocked if this wasn't added to the game, since literally every Sonic game since Generations gave Sonic the drop dash. As for modern Sonic, it looks like his control scheme was changed to be more similar to Sonic Frontiers and Shadow Generations. The boost is now mapped to R2, and homing attacking is now the same as Unleashed, as you have to press X and then square this time around. Honestly, this is fine, but I'm just so used to how Generations controls already, so hopefully they let you remap the controls. There are some UI differences as well. There are no lives, which was to be expected, but there's also a red ring counter, which is a fantastic addition. I have no idea why there wasn't a red ring counter in the original game. We can also see a section to track the amount of Chow collected in a level for those new Chow missions the website was talking about, but other than those changes, the game is unchanged. But the main reason I'm making this video is to talk about the Shadow stuff. Before getting into it, I just want to say that this is looking like it could be the best Sonic game. I'm just going to put that out there right now. This is what I wanted Sonic Frontier Cyberspace to be. The spectacle for one is insane. In this one level, you start outside of the Space Colony Arc, you go inside this space station building, you go back outside, and then you get transported to this freaking radical highway chase sequence with a bunch of buildings shape-shifting and shit. This looks awesome. There are no loading screens whatsoever. It's just all seamless gameplay. I'm shocked to be saying that it reminds me of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Yeah, remember when everyone wanted Insomniac to make a Sonic game? This kind of looks like something they would do. It's just so cool. Oh, and remember these cutscene segments from the first trailer? I originally thought this was just Marza CGI for promotional purposes. I mean, Sega has them making these CG animations all the time for that sort of thing, but no, these are mid-level in-game cutscenes that seamlessly transition back to normal gameplay. What the hell is going on with this game? This is some AAA high-budget shit right here, and I was not expecting this at all. I would never imagine a Sonic game where one moment Shadow is flying through the air, and the next he's sliding down a crumbling building while chasing Doom's Eye. What the f***, dude? These QTE and transition segments are my favorite thing I've seen so far from this game because they're just so goddamn cool. The fact that all of the cutscenes we've seen in the trailer are all done in-game is mind-blowing to me. We've already come such a far way from the robotic, lifeless Sonic Frontiers endgame cutscenes. So yeah, the game looks cool. Really cool. But how does it control? The controls are much more similar to Frontiers, as mentioned before, which is evidenced by the button props that show up during the stage. This was likely done to reserve more buttons for Shadow's new Chaos abilities, which we'll talk about later. But from what I can tell, this doesn't look exactly like Generations physics and whatnot, but rather it's a very modified Sonic Forces from what I can tell, and hey, that game controlled just fine, so I'm not losing sleep over that. Now, the level design has been a very big topic of discussion recently. Some people are saying it looks like Forces level design, and other people are saying it doesn't. Personally, yeah, this looks nothing like Forces. I don't know, man, maybe there's just something I'm not seeing here. Sure, it's a boost game, so the level design is linear, but there are so many branching paths and different set pieces. There is a load of variety in the level design. If you just compare the Radical Highway segment, then yeah, I can kinda see where people would get a Forces vibe, but this is just a story-related chase sequence with Black Doom. When looking at the actual meat of the level, yeah, this looks nothing like Forces. The new Chaos abilities also look like they'll help with alternate paths and whatnot. The only Chaos abilities we've seen so far are Chaos Control and Chaos Spear. Using Chaos Control freezes time so Shadow can walk on platforms and whatnot. He activates this ability by first filling up this gauge on the bottom by killing enemies and collecting rings. Then he can use the Chaos ability. This ability is also used for some of the QTEs in the level, which is just so badass. Then we get to the Biolizard boss fight. Holy shit, man, this looks awesome. You can tell they really took a lot of inspiration from the spectacle of the Titan fights in Frontiers, because the scale of this boss is really cool. It starts out similar to the original fight, but then the second phase has you destroy these orb tentacles to get to the boss's weak point. Eventually, the boss ends with Shadow having to use Chaos Spear to damage the Biolizard on the wall, which then ends with an awesome QTE that finishes the boss. I don't even know what to say. I'm truly at a loss for words right now. Not only did they seemingly make one of the coolest looking Sonic boss fights in years, but they also made it kind of challenging? I'm sorry. But seriously, while the Titan fights in Frontiers were pretty cool, they were just aimless button mashing most of the time. It was fun and the spectacle was cool, but this Biolizard fight combines both gameplay and spectacle. I'm just really hyped to see what other fights appear in the game. Black Doom is probably a given, but I could only imagine what my reaction would be if they added in a Mephiles fight. Oh my god, dude, that would be awesome. The music in this fight is also really good. The first phase reuses the Supporting Me remix from the 3DS version of Generations, but the second phase has a completely new remix that clearly takes heavy inspiration from the Titan fights. Other than that, in the Arc level, we have remixes of the Arc from Shadow the Hedgehog and Radical Highway from SA2, and they all sound great. I'm not worried about this game's soundtrack in the slightest. Just don't f*** up Kingdom Valley, please. But even though Shadow Generations seems a lot different from Sonic Generations, they still kept a similar UI to the base game. The result screen is the same, just with different animations and color schemes, of course, which, by the way, these animations look f***ing awesome. But yeah, it still has that fun and bubbly feel from Sonic Generations in its user interface, which I appreciate how they kept similar theming like that. But yeah, that was a quick rundown of my thoughts on the leaked Sonic X Shadow Generations gameplay footage. Honestly, I haven't been this excited for a Sonic game probably since Frontiers, so I cannot wait for this game to release. I am not worried about how this game turns out in the slightest. I think they finally got this one in the bag. Knock on wood, of course. Also, thank you so much again to VGC and GamesCage for the gameplay footage. But that's it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.